First off, I want to thank Focus Entertainment for sending me Atlas Fallen. They sent me this game pretty early, giving me plenty of time to complete the game, which was nice. I was able to actually experience this game and complete it without having major time constraints. Although I did receive the copy free of charge, I do want you to know that everything in this video are my genuine thoughts. Also note that this game was played on the PS5 in performance mode. So Atlas Fallen is a story about a battle of two gods, Thelos and Nile. And as you probably guessed it, one is good and the other not so much. We take control of a customizable player who goes by the title Unnamed, as they are the lowest class citizen. One thing leads to another, and you acquire a gauntlet with the spirit of Nile inside that you must use to defeat the bad guys and unlock all of its abilities. And that is as far as I will go to not spoil the story. Overall, the story did not feel inspiring. I never grew to like any of the characters and never truly felt invested in the story and where we were going. It was forgettable and had no lasting impacts that will have me thinking about it after moving on from the game, which is why I didn't really feel the story as much as I otherwise would have. Now, gameplay is and always has been king for me. This is the deciding factor if I enjoy a game or not. I have always said a bad story can be saved by great gameplay. However, a bad gameplay system can't necessarily be saved by a good story. Lucky for us, Atlas Fallen actually has some good gameplay mechanics and systems that I genuinely enjoyed. It also has an open world and has main quests, side quests, and activities to complete in the world. Traversal and mobility on the map was smooth and fun. I felt like I had control at all times during combat and platforming segments. The addition of up to 3 dashes also makes getting around better in every aspect. Sand surfing is its primary way of getting around. Not only looks cool, but feels great when going on foot from place to place. I feel they really nailed the traversal. Sure, it could have used some polish, but given the AA nature of the game, it's tough to ask for more. So earlier we talked about the gauntlet and how as the game progresses, we unlock more abilities. Most of these abilities are associated with getting past barriers like chains and raising platforms. It didn't really add anything new to the combat, but it was a neat way of implementing the removal of map barriers. It's refreshing that they tried to do something different from the typical games. Now, the combat systems are the biggest part of this game, and this is where things get interesting. The momentum system is a bar that fills as you land attacks, defeat enemies, and body parts of enemies. The momentum bar has 3 tiers, and as the bar fills, you unlock your 3 abilities for use and passive abilities that become enabled. These are known as essence stones that you obtain and confuse to elevate your gameplay. The filling of the bars also makes your weapons bigger and allows you to deal more damage. You can cash out your momentum bar as soon as 1 to 3 segments are full, with each segment causing more damage but also disabling your passive abilities and your 3 skills. However, momentum is a double-edged sword, as the more it fills, the more damage you take. You also lose momentum if you stop landing attacks. There is also the addition of an idol, which is used to heal yourself and revive your co-op partners. Yes, there's co-op. More about that later. The combat comes down to 3 weapons which you can equip. 2 of these weapons are long range, mid range, and close range, with no projectile type weapons. If I had to describe the gameplay, it almost reminds me of games like God of War 1 to 3, but with less complexity. I very much felt I was just bashing the square and triangle buttons for basic attacks in no specific order, although there are alternative attacks if you hold square or triangle that I simply just did not find useful for me. There are the addition of 12 perks for you to unlock and upgrade multiple times, which will enhance your gameplay experience. There are also varied armor sets that only come in as sets, so you cannot exchange some boots on one armor set and some gloves on another armor set and a chest piece. No, they just come in as pure sets. However, they can be upgraded, and with each upgrade, the armor changes in appearance and stats. Earlier, I promised that we would talk about cooperative play, and this feature is by far my favorite because of its execution and fun factor. First off, you can rest assured that it is a smooth co-op experience. Not much latency or lag that was noticeable. There are no limitations on where you can go as long as you are in the same zones. All progress is carried over for both players. All loot is shared. And most importantly, the game does not break because of the co-op experience. One note to make, though, in co-op is that you are going to find that the enemies are more difficult, and it does scale a little more. because you do have a co-op partner. Not to say that it's incredibly difficult, but it's just like a little more difficult than it would have been by yourself. But that is also something that is to be addressed with the first day one patch. I played about 50% of this game in cooperative play, which seriously enhanced the experience and made it far more fun, given the story was not enticing to keep me going. Overall, the gameplay experience with Atlas Fallen is good. I had fun, and I enjoyed my time with it. The game worked, performed well, the graphics were decent, and there was lots to do with a friend. But as with all games, they are not perfect. So I want to talk about the things that left me not so impressed. The music and sound effects were not great. They also were not varied enough, but I also feel that could be due to the budget and scope of the game. I don't recall any music where I had to stop and like listen to it because it was just that good. The enemy types are few in selection. I can't recall how many times I fought a huge crab, which also brings me to the point that some enemies just felt like damaged sponges. It felt like I was bashing away for extended periods of time, and unfortunately, it never felt like I had to use any specific strategies, but rather I just would hit them back up, dodge, parry, keep attacking, and they didn't have any cool attack patterns to be like, oh, this is very intriguing how I have to combat this certain enemy type. Not to say that it has to be a Souls-like game, but just that it could have been a little more deeper in combat and complexity of the enemies and their patterns. Now, the side activities, while they exist, also do not offer anything exciting. I found them repetitive and boring. The navigation felt dated as well, with the map systems feeling convoluted when trying to access different areas. It also didn't help that fast travel was only possible at the anvils, and when accessing the anvil to fast travel, it never showed the objectives on the fast travel map. So you'd have to go ahead, pop up your map, see where you want to go to the anvil, go to fast travel, find out where it was on the map that you need to go to get to the closest possible location. Otherwise, you just wouldn't know where it was. Lastly, there were some technical bugs, but there will be a day one patch which may address these things. I have read that yes, they are going to be addressed through the notice that they gave us, but in the event they don't, I do want to highlight them, as I did have one lockup forcing me to close the game, and an instance where the game crashed. Some enemies fell through the floor, and in this instance had to be defeated to drop the boss's barrier, which made it incredibly frustrating. There was also an instance where we had to jump on platforms to dodge a boss's attack, but we fell through the platforms, not allowing us to stay out of the area of attack. There were also some frame dips in populated areas, but this was very much a minor inconvenience. So these things may get addressed in the day one patch. That is my understanding, but just in case they don't, that was my experience. Overall, the game was better than I expected, and I can say I walked away happy with my experience. Scoring the game was a bit tough, as there were some things I really loved, but other things that really dragged down the game. And obviously, outside of those bugs that are in the game that are supposed to be patched out, I ultimately decided on a 7 out of 10, just because the co-op experience and gameplay really landed for me. It helped that the momentum system was different as well. If any of this sounds like your type of game, I would recommend you pick it up. It's about 10 to 30 hours depending on your play style, and I think there's a lot of fun to be had here, especially if you have a friend to play with. Let me know if you will be picking up Atlas Fallen. I definitely think that it could appeal to a lot of people. I do think that there is some room to argue that this would be more of a sale game, but I also feel like somebody could buy this at full price and really feel happy about their purchase and really enjoy the game. So I don't want to take that away and say, go ahead, buy it on a sale, but rather that if this appeals to you, you might be okay with buying a day one. But if you're on the fence, maybe wait for a sale just to see how things go. Now, if you liked the video, please hit that like button. If you didn't like the video, hit the dislike button. Subscribe if you're new, and share the video to keep everybody informed. I thank you all for watching. Take care.